Happy Friday, my friends. It is another Friday, another week of building wins. Man, I've been on the road this week, getting back to the northern Michigan part of my life. And look at that. Happy Friday from Kirsten. Number one, she has been online waiting for like 20 minutes for us. That's how excited she was to see Ben Gay again. It's amazing. I like to pretend it was to see me, but I have a feeling it was a little bit more Ben. But anyway, great week, awesome week in the world of rep agency work, and just loving what I do and doing what I love. And nothing gets better. Nothing gets me more geek than chatting with Ben. And um, we're a minute or so late because Wes and I think both forgot that we weren't on air because Ben was in the middle of teaching the world of selling compared to in the words of Ben Gay the third. And also we go, oh, we probably should go live, maybe. So Barry, thanks for being on too, buddy. Hey, we're going to be right back with Ben. Don't go away. Well, we just said it a minute ago, Mr. Gay, right? That's the way. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine, Randy. How
Good.
you doing?
Couldn't be better. Like I said in the short intro there, Dixie and I were traveling this week from Florida back to our northern Michigan hangout for a few months, and it's back here where it's only 90 today, so it's actually almost chilly.
You were talking about being on the road and just getting back and so on. The first or second time I did a show with you guys, you were in a car somewhere
I was.
because you didn't get back to the studio in time or whatever. And I thought that's dedication. Pull over to the and technology. Pull over to the side of the road and do a show. I find that amazing.
Well, and I remember you said something about it, and I still remember, Ben, what the second show you was on, when I reached out and said, hey, I would love to have you back on because you had been so gracious and said, look, I'll come on if I'm not doing something, I'll come on anytime. And I wanted to take you up on that, the second appearance. And I remember I think we either talked on the phone or it was a text or a messenger or whatever it was. And I said, I want to kind of make up for show one when I was sitting under a tree along a side road, literally 15 minutes from shaking hands with my customers at an open house. And I don't remember word for word, Ben, but you said something about doing what you ought to be doing is what you were doing,
Yeah.
right? And I still remember that. So
you should be selling.
that's it. It's why it's in my it's why it's on my card. It says somewhere on there some indication of sales rep. I think that's sort of my job a little bit, I think. So how you been? Life is good?
Been fine. Life is always good, even in the bad times.
There you go.
My life, I've been blessed and am very happy with the situation I find myself in or put myself in. It wasn't accidental. It reminded me of Zig talking about interviewing somebody who went up Mount Everest, and they said, "How did you do it?" And he said, "Well, I was just out wandering around, and and here I am."
Ended up at the top of the mountain.
Yeah. So it's not as accidental as it looks, but I've been blessed.
Yes. Well, and that's a great point because it really is there some. Well, let me ask you this question rather than put my own words on it, because I think you just hit on it. I think it's an area that I like to talk about a lot. Is you hear people say, "Wow, you're just lucky. You just got lucky." Lucky to me, Ben, is you throw $50 in the slot machine and you pull the little one-arm band and you get $5,000. That's sort of luck, right? But everything else that we all do, you, I, Wes, Barry that just jumped on, Kirsten that jumped on, we're kind of where we're at because of a little more than luck, or we make our own luck, right?
Absolutely. And I tell the story of looking in the want ads in Atlanta, September 15th, Wednesday, 1965, and within 30 minutes of that call, being in an entirely new business that changed the direction of my life, met Zig Ziglar because he'd answered the same ad and so on. And people say, well, what if you hadn't read the paper and had seen that ad? And the humble answer is yes, I was really lucky and so on. The other answer is then I would have answered another ad the next day, or I was out seeking.
Mm-hmm.
Now maybe I got lucky in that I answered an ad that was really life changing, where maybe another one might have been semi life changing. I had to answer another ad a year later. But my
Right.
point is, I was looking to succeed.
Right.
And that sort of start. Jim Rohn used to tell the story about a friend of his who had a beautiful seashell collection, lived in Carmel or somewhere, I believe Carmel, California. And Jim, I think it was Jim, said to him, uh, "How did you get such a beautiful seashell collection?"
Say
And
that fast 3 times.
yeah, I tried it once. I'm not going for three times. How did you get it? And the guy said to him, "Well, Jim, first I went down to the beach and and started looking for
Yeah.
seashells. You know, you got to take the first step." But
Yes.
yeah, it's and I think it was Arnold Palmer, some golfer that I'm respectful of, said, you know, "You sure are lucky to have won this or won that." And he said, "You know, I find that the harder I work, the luckier I get."
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and I posted something the other day, and I don't know if it was my stroke of brilliance or I found it somewhere. I'm going to go with my stroke of brilliance unless somebody corrects me. But that if you're if you're always looking for opportunity, if your head's on a pivot for opportunities, and you expect right opportunities, it's like and it's a funny thing. My wife just got a new car about 3 weeks ago, and the second we got this car, never had one before, they're all over the place. Well, they weren't just all over the place because everybody said, "Hey, we want a car like Dixie and Randy," right? It's just that we never saw them until we had one, right? So if you're looking and looking for
Right.
opportunities, it's just uh, I guess you get lucky then if that's the word everybody wants to use, but boy, you just find them, don't you?
Pregnant women go through that. They don't notice pregnant women until they're pregnant, and they're everywhere. And I experienced it in 1962 when I bought my first new car, a VW Bug,
Hmm.
and I'd never noticed them before. They were everywhere
Yeah.
and
Yep.
had been everywhere since
Right.
right after the war, apparently. I
Yep.
missed it. But once I had one, boy, beep, beep,
Yep.
and shake your fist. And
But I got to ask, did you have the little vase with the flower, Ben? That's important to know.
no, I didn't, and I don't know why I didn't. I got 62 was the first time it didn't have the thing where you flip the lever and the little arm comes up to show you're turning left or right.
Oh, okay.
And it was the first year where you just put gas in the car, and you better watch the gauge because it didn't have a flip to the reserve tank.
Oh, okay.
And the first year it had the larger tail lights. And I'm proving what happens if you buy a particular car. You know everything about it. It was
Yeah.
anthracite gray. When I bought
Anthers.
a Corvette that was the same color years later, it was European racing gray.
Oh,
But if you got a VW, it's anthracite gray, whatever the heck that means.
what I was going to say, don't ask me to spell it, but
Yeah,
I can't.
yeah.
I'm not even sure I can say it.
On that luckier thing, Palmer, I know this was Arnold Palmer, has made like 61 witnessed holes in one. And he says he's made several others, but he's not going to claim them because he was playing by
Right.
himself practicing. But 61 or whatever it was, holes in one. And they said, wow. Somebody said, how lucky is that? He said, well, a hole in one is lucky. Getting within 2 feet of the cup 1,000 times is skill.
Exactly. It's true. Good point.
Oh,
Good point. Good point. My golf, um, it I would golf with you, Ben, if you was a golfer, if I was ever out there and you wanted to golf. But here's what I do first. I line up. I'm good with the swaggle or whatever that is and getting all adjusted. And I look as good as anybody warming up.
yep.
Then before I swing, I cuss because I know I'm going to cuss after I swing. So I just get it out of the way early,
Yeah.
right?
Be
Yeah.
done with it.
Be done with it because I have a tendency to say, yeah, I usually hit about 270, 280 all the time. They go, wow, that's impressive. I said, the problem is it's about 30 yards down and 200 yards out into someplace else. But we,
I was raised at East Lake Country Club in Atlanta, Bobby Jones' home course,
oh,
and
okay.
in the trophy room where his Grand Slam trophies are kept, there's a wall for holes in one. And the last time I was there, which was years ago, it was covered. I don't know what they were going to do with the next ones, but over on the right hand wall, there was a section with one plaque, looked just like all the others, but just one plaque, uh, isolated. And the trick was take people in there, and inevitably someone would say, "What's that one?" You know,
Right.
that was a doctor who, with his three doctor friends, played golf every Wednesday, and they all had made holes in one, and they were all on the left hand wall. This doctor made a hole in one, and I'm making up holes because I don't know where they
Yeah.
were. Teed off on 4 and sunk it in the hole on 5. So, so they gave him credit for hole in
I,
one, even though it
I,
wasn't the right hole.
that seems fair.
Yeah.
Bet before we get off of golf, it's because, but I was playing in an association golf outing one time in Michigan, and I mean, this is how bad I am. You're playing a scramble, right? And about 16 holes in, one of the guys with me, a customer, he goes, "Okay, so if you hit it just left of the oak tree on top of that hill, it plays into the right." I said, "Tom, you've been with me for 16 holes. I'm lucky if I hit the ball and we find the ball. What are you doing? 16 holes. Are you paying attention to? We've been playing the same game." but
Fade
but
it to the left.
faded to the. Are you kidding me? I just hope I can find the ball after I hit it.
That's right. I'm with you.
But I remember one hole I teed off on is one of these where there's two greens side by side, and there's all these people in an association. You know each other, right? I hit it perfectly, like right on the green. Beautiful shot. I'm going, yes. Everybody, that's 17. You're going to 5.
Yeah.
So we get in the cart, right? And it's a scramble. And they go, "You gonna go get your ball?" And these other guys are, "I know, no, no, I'm not. I have no idea where that ball came from. I'm not going after it. I would rather lose the whole tournament than walk up and say, 'Excuse me, guys, you mind if
Yeah.
I
This
grab
is my
my
ball.
that's my ball if you don't mind?'"
But it's a
Oh,
Titleist 5, Randy. It's yours. No, no, I swapped to
yeah.
fours
Why does it
years
have
ago.
RC on it? Wow, somebody picked up my ball. Oh, good stuff. So,
One quick golf story, then
yeah.
we probably ought to
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about selling a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I
Could.
was playing with my father one day, and I'd gotten better than I should have gotten because I was playing golf when I was supposed to be working for him as a as a food broker. And he was sort of amazed at my newfound skill and wondering why he, playing twice a week in his case, why he was suddenly being pursued by me. Well, the answer was I was playing 4 times a week. And but anyway, being we were playing for a little money on a hole, I think. Uh, I there was about a 6 inch. My ball was about 6 inches from the hole, so I walked up to it and casually, because I'd seen he and his friends do it, backhanded it across the green over to my golf bag.
Yeah.
And my father said, "Whoa, you left yourself a long one." I said, "No, Dad, that was a gimme." He said, "No, I give you gimmies. You don't give yourself gimmies." But
But oh my, yeah, that was not a gimme. That was, you should Ben. You should have said no. That's a takey. That's a
yeah,
takey. Yeah. If you don't give, if it's not, it's a gimme if you do. But I'm taking it. So, so Kirsten, a good friend of mine, she said she had a hole in one back in the '80s. I I've never had a hole. I've had a hole in one on putt putt. Does that count? I don't think it does, but
it was a challenge for me even at putt putt. No, I've played my ringer score. Do you know what a ringer score is?
not sure, not for sure. No.
All right, you keep a permanent scorecard and you play the hole, play the course, and that's your ringer score. The next time you play it, you carry 2 cards, one for that day and the other one for any hole that improves.
Okay.
So,
Love it.
and so it shows you what you could do if you got your head all in one place.
Yep.
I think my low ringer score was 54 at
Wow.
East Lake.
Wow.
Uh, but it took me 5 or 6 years to get to a 54. And the
Yeah.
reason that came to my mind was in all those years, I was 1 under par on every hole at East Lake at some time or other.
Some point or another. Yeah.
Yeah, but I never had a hole in one, not
Wow.
one ever. I've even dreamed about it. And my nightmare is like Arnold, you make a hole in one and you're out by yourself
by
practicing.
yourself. That would be exactly,
Oh,
that'd be, I tell people all the time, I said, I'm not bad. Back in my day, I said, I usually hit par pretty much. They go, oh, that's pretty good. I said, yeah, I just stopped counting when I hit there.
when you hit par, you
It
stop.
could be, it could be 5, 6, 7 holes in, wherever it is. I just stopped counting. So Ben, yeah, we should probably talk sales since that's the game of life that you and I love. Um, so you obviously have been doing this for a day or two. How many years? Tell for anybody that's going to catch this that maybe have not caught you before.
Well,
Let's do the story of Ben Gay the third.
I won my first sales contest when I was 10, selling Krispy Kreme donuts. That would be 70 years ago, almost.
Wow,
And uh, number one in Atlanta, Georgia, and I won a red bicycle, Columbia bicycle.
nice.
And so that was sort of my beginning. Then I owned my own lawn mowing company, 20, 25 kids working for me. In the growing season, they mowed, I collected. And
Perfect.
yeah, so that's sort of selling. But
It is.
Wednesday, September 15th, and I worked for my father and I was a manufacturer's rep, but that was just sort of like being in the minor leagues. And then Wednesday, September 15th, 1965, I answered that legendary ad in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and joined a company called Holiday Magic Cosmetics, uh, a multi-level marketing company. And met Zig that day. He'd answered the same ad. And it was like the phone booth that I answered the ad in was like a rocket ship. I didn't know it, but I dialed the number, and notice I did dialed. I
Right.
didn't punch it in. I dialed it, and it was the launch code, and off I went. So being in position to make big money started in 1965. So that's what, 35, 45, 55, 56, 57 years ago. I've
Wow.
been in and around big ticket, big money selling.
Yeah. And an impressive career. And you just think that was the day, if I remember the story right, and we've talked about it many a time, but that was the day that you smoked old Zig, right? And you got the job.
Well, it was a year long.
A
It
year in
started about 6 months after that because
after.
Zig
Okay.
got off to a faster start than I did or we did. Jimmy Rucker and I, my partner, and Mel had a part. I mean, Zig had a partner named Mel Lanius. They got off to a quicker start. Zig was 18 years older than
Hmm.
I was. He was in the Navy the day I was born,
Wow. Okay.
so he had more experience, but he'd never had a big hit. And that was for him his first big hit, Holiday Magic Cosmetics. So about 6 months later, I'm guessing a contest started, a year-long contest, and Mel and Zig and Jimmy Rucker and I went head to head. And I was always raised by my father, just do your best and it'll be whatever it is. He was offered a television set one time by one of our food vendors if he sold so much. We were in New York at the Food Brokers Convention, and we're sitting in their suite, and Dad said, I'll clean it up. But he said, you can take your television and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. I sell all that I can sell of your product and all of my other clients every day.
Yep.
And if that's not good enough for you, let me know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Love it.
it'll free up time for other people. And oh no, 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 Mr. Gay, no, we love you. And a couple of days after we got back to Atlanta from that trip, the color television console with the built-in record player and all
Hmm.
showed up. Contest hadn't started, but if this aggravates you, here's your television set. So I uh, I knew just because common sense told me. I saw what other people were making, and Jimmy Rucker and I were making a lot of money. We were making when I left the field, we were making $40,000 a month in 1967 dollars. That's about
Wow.
$400,000 a year, and we were part time. We still both of us worked for my father. So,
Wow.
Dad fired me on my birthday. He said, "Here's your birthday present, Rucker. You're always with him, so let me give you your present too early." And Rucker said, "Okay, fine. You're fired, both of you. You don't have the courage to jump into a job where you're making 40,000 a month and you're staying here for $100 a week. If you don't have the courage, I do. Have a nice day, and don't be late for dinner. It was my birthday thing.
Nice.
So my joy, Rutgers, we walk out and Rutgers said, "Well done." Uh, so that was so, anyway. I knew we were doing well, but I wasn't concerned about it, and so on. The night the contest ended, I did an opportunity meeting in Atlanta, and the volume by which I won the year-long contest, we won the year-long contest, was the volume that we sold in that meeting. After a year, that was the difference between us and
Wow.
Zig. Why didn't he do the same thing? Well, he was having a victory celebration in Columbia, South Carolina. You never want to celebrate your victory before you've won. So
Yeah.
his victory party and/or our opportunity meeting, the combination thereof, spelled the difference. The winner was a mystery prize. Rucker had no desire to leave Atlanta. He's a good old Southern boy. And so I took the bait and flew out to California to find out what the mystery prize was. And it was presidency of the company. And I
Wow.
said to William Penn Patrick, Bill Patrick, why was it a mystery prize? Uh, I might have done a little extra if I'd known.
Right.
And he said, I made it a mystery prize in case I didn't like who won it.
That's awesome.
So, and he and I had spent some time together. I flew around
Yeah.
the country with him once, introducing him, emceeing 25 cities in 25 days. So we'd gotten to know each other, but I didn't think that gave me any IOUs. It just gave me experience.
Right. Right. Well, well, that's awesome. So, and I know the story. As impressed as he was, obviously, with you to make you president, you won the contest. There's a pretty well-known guy that he decided maybe ought to mentor you for a while.
Yeah, one day I'm sitting in my office, in my presidential office with my great big conference table. Very impressive. The reason it was is when I moved to California, it was the only office available. It was the conference room.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just shifted the chairs around, put my chair in the middle of one side, and put my desk set down, and the conference room became my office.
Yeah,
So it
perfect.
was sort of, I always felt like I was camping out, but
Hmm.
to a casual visitor, it was impressive.
Right.
So I'm sitting there one day and I hear, and the door opens. That was always the sign. It was Bill Patrick. He didn't wait to be told to come in. He just gave you, like a doctor in an examination room, gave you a courtesy knock. It
Yeah.
wasn't, yeah, it wasn't for permission.
Right. Uh,
And the door opens, and there he stands, pretty impressive guy, 6'3" ish, with this little old guy on a cane. And being a Southern gentleman, I hopped up and ran around the table and said, "Hi, my name's Ben Gay." And Bill said, "Ben, this is Dr. Napoleon Hill." I said, "Oh my God," because I was given a copy of Think and Grow Rich the day I joined the company, and that one was long since stolen. And this record, this is
oh,
the actual record, Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret.
oh,
And when this was printed, Lloyd Conant was just a distributor.
oh,
He,
no kidding.
it wasn't Nightingale Conant, it was
Right.
Nightingale. Uh, they gave me those two things. And so I had read his material, probably not as much as I should. And I said, "Well, it's a pleasure to meet you." Now, here's what's going through my mind. We started Stay Power Motor Oil Additive, same marketing plan on just different company, different product. Because Bill knew a guy named Terry McVeigh, I think was his name, who had whipped up some little motor oil additive like STP. And he brought him to my office. Ben, build a company around him. And then he brought in Bob Cummings, the old actor, who was the spokesman for NutriBio. And Bill had worked under him years before. And he said, "This is Bob Cummings. Build a company around him." Now I'm looking at this guy who turned, and that happened 3 or 4 other times. I'm looking at this guy who it turned out was 84. He was old enough biologically to be my great grandfather. And I'm thinking, okay, multi level marketing wheelchairs, uh, memberships in a rest home. What am I going to do now?
Right. Right.
And he said, "Well, I've hired Dr. Hill to be," and I forget the word he used. I don't think we used mentor then or coach. But what he did was he hired him to be my friend. He said, "I believe there are times because I was 25. When you're running this rapidly becoming worldwide organization with all sorts of arms, the motor oil additives and so on, there must be times when you think you're in over your head and you want to walk down that long hall to my office and unload. But then you think uh, that might show me I made a mistake and it might cost you your job. I said, well, that thought's crossed my mind
Right.
from time to time, the
Right.
imposter complex.
Hmm.
And I said, well, there's some merit to that. And he said, well, Dr. Hill has been hired to be your friend, and you can ask him or tell him anything. I promise you, it'll never get back to me. So I've hired you a friend, a father, a grandfather, and if he'd figured it out, he could have said a great grandfather, and to work with. And I won't bore you with the whole long story, but I tested the system. I didn't believe that. I figured Dr. Hill would run down the hall and tell Bill
Right.
anything I told him. So I told him something once that would make him run down the hill, uh, hall, and make Bill explode. And I had a cover letter written, sealed in the drawer of his secretary that said, dear Bill, the story Dr. Hill wasn't true. It was a test. Well, when I left the company and then the company went out of business a couple of years later, I firmly believe, because I never heard about it from anybody ever, that letter with a wax seal on it was still in Marion McGinnis's desk, because I got very loose with Dr. Hill. He stayed at our house. He had a reserved spot in my office. He had a reserved bedroom at the house. After a while, there really wasn't much Dr. Hill didn't know about me. And when I got comfortable with it, I really would dump on him. I don't mean in a negative way,
Hmm.
but just, if I had the mildest concern. And he did another thing. A, he didn't breach that trust. The other thing was he never criticized me or questioned me unless asked a direct question in front of anybody else. We could have a 5-hour long board meeting or a series of board meetings from companies all around the world. Come in, do your thing, leave. Next company comes in. And Dr. Hill would sit. I used to wonder what he was writing. He'd sit with his trusty legal pad writing, rarely look up. If somebody said something funny, he might look up and laugh. But until the door clicked, when everybody left and the door went click, his head would come up. And then if there was anything I needed to know, that's when I got it. And but never in front of anybody else. It was like having a Catholic priest and
Hmm.
you're in the confessional. It
Yep.
was really a neat situation.
That's
I try in my coaching to do that for other people. I'm not in an office where we're interchanging every few minutes, so it's not really as important. But if you tell me something in a client relationship or even a friendship relationship, uh, it doesn't go any farther. And I learned that from Dr. Hill, because I used to be, uh, Gigi told me once I'd make a good girl. And I said, why? She said, because you love to gossip. If there's 12 people at a dinner party and all
yeah.
the ladies are sitting over there, I'm with the ladies. They're far more interesting.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and besides that, they're just better to look at too, right?
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Unless you're in a room with a bunch of Wes Wyatts, then that's
That's a
touch and
different
go,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
So the we talked earlier about training people to trust you. Is that the word I want to use? Is that
Well, train people how to treat you,
how to treat you?
which
There
is
you go.
also trust you. Yeah.
Correct. Good point. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that because I made a couple notes and we was talking 15 minutes or so pre-show and I found that pretty amazing concept. So
Well,
tell me about that.
this is with credit to a couple of people who might be listening in today. Jimmy Rucker, James H. Rucker Jr., the greatest salesman I ever worked with, and my running buddy in high school. I didn't know he was my greatest salesman. I knew that he drank beer and chased girls just like I did,
Yep.
unsuccessfully. We got drinking beer down pretty
Yeah.
good, but
Well, that's
chasing,
the easy part.
yeah, chasing girls was so. And then you have too much beer, and then somehow they don't find you quite as attractive as they might have if you hadn't.
Truth.
But anyway, that was Jimmy Rucker. I watched him after I figured out how good he was. He was a natural, unconscious, competent. watched him carefully. And another mentor of mine, and I feel badly sometimes that he doesn't get as much credit as Dr. Hill does, but it's easier to talk about Dr. Hill because he's better known.
Hmm.
And everybody goes, oh, okay. But the other mentor is a gentleman named Merle Frazier who lives in Jackson, Mississippi. Wonderful gentleman. And I watched the way they worked with people. They were both what I call sales infiltrators. They got through your defenses and became part of you and your family and your company before you knew it, and had you and them working on the same team. And they trained you how to treat them. And the example I gave in casual conversation with you was I used to watch with fascination Bob Hope, the old comedian. Some of your people won't know who he is. Shame on you. Google him, look him up, watch him work. He was a master. And but I went to a couple of Bob Hope shows. When he walked on stage, they played a theme, Thanks for the Memories. That was his theme song. And when he walked on stage, the orchestra started playing Thanks for the Memories, and the audience started laughing. Bob Hope had trained America to laugh when they saw him. It was a conditioned reflex like Pavlov's dogs. I've told you about Zig. Zig wasn't as good a salesman as I am. He wasn't as good a salesman as his business partner, Mel Lanius. Mel was the stone cold killer. And none of us were as good as Jimmy Rucker, who was a stone cold killer when it came to closing sales. But one thing Zig had going for him, he had worked on his reputation and his image and his front of the room talent. Going to a Zig talk was like going to a nightclub show. He was
Hmm.
funny and knew the stage and knew every gesture and everything. I watched him many, many times because later, when I came president of the company, he worked for me. But in the early days, when I figured out he was much better than I was at speaking, I made a deal with him. I will carry that old water pump he used to haul around with him. He
Hmm.
had three main speeches: biscuits. Uh, the biscuits squatted to rise, but got cooked in the squat, like a lot of people do. Uh, Biscuits, fleas in a jar. Put the lid on it, they'll jump and bang their head because a flea can jump 3 feet. But after they've done that for a few hours, you can take the lid off the jar. They'll never jump out because they got conditioned. People
Right.
do that. And pump handles. And the punchline there was you had to prime the pump. That pump must have weighed the first one before he got an aluminum one. His first one really came off of a farm somewhere, must have weighed 50 pounds. And I said, here's the deal, Zig. I will carry your pump in because I said, you shouldn't be seen hauling the pump in. It'd be like Elvis being seen getting his guitar out of a station wagon. You shouldn't.
Right.
I'll carry the pump in exchange for sitting on the front row, having lunch and dinner with you every time I'm around you, and take notes. He said, deal. He liked that.
Yeah.
So I watched Zig treat him, and Zig, by building his reputation and image, and he would drop talks about how much he'd made and so on. Uh, when Zig approached your table at the end of a meeting, for instance, where I knew him first, to close you, you expected to buy. Zig
Right.
just told you 50 times he was one of the greatest salesmen in the world, that he had a wonderful product. He's a great guy. You'd love him to live next door and have him as a buddy. He told you all that. So when you sat down, unless he threw up on himself or fainted, you were going to buy.
Right.
It was just he trained you how to treat him. And I've made that sort of a skill over the years. When I meet somebody new in business, socially, waiter or waitress in a restaurant, server, pardon me,
Yeah. Right.
uh, I have to be politically
Yeah. You have to
correct.
be politically correct today.
Yeah, I may tell you a story. I'm so proud of my son said to somebody, but I have to figure out a way to clean it up. Uh, the Soon as I see them, I start training them how to treat me and the rewards in doing that. uh, so that they see it's to their advantage to treat me well. A little minor one I may have mentioned to you: when I'm on stage telling a story about me, somebody comes up to me and says something in the story. That person always addresses me as Mr. Gay. They came up to me and they said, Mr. Gay. They came up over here, Mr. Gay. This happened. Person said, Mr. Gay, I can't believe that happened. Now the meeting's either at a break, lunch break, or I'm done. When I come off stage and I'm shaking hands and all, people will come up to me and they say, Mr. Gay, if I can, I say, no, 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 call me Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Now, call me Ben is a gracious favor on my part because first I trained them to call me Mr. Gay.
Right.
In the cosmetic business and all in-person selling, I teach people to do a TO, a proper turnover, takeover. They raise their hand, they need help, and I walk slowly to the table because if they listen to what I told them, when I'm on the way, they're saying, we're in luck. Mr. Gay is coming over. He's one of the top so and so, one of the top salesmen in the world, been number one every company he's ever been in. Da, 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 da. For God's sake, listen to him. I walk
Mm-hmm.
over. The men always stand. Sometimes the women, a woman or two, even in the South, would stand. That always embarrassed me, but it was a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
They have been prompted to know who I am and how to treat me. And then, hi, how are you, Mr. Gay? We're so good to meet. Call me Ben. Oh, Ben. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have, in those situations, if you have the money, you will give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't have the money, that's a condition. Maybe we can inspire you to go get it. But if you have the money, I have an 86% closing rate. I'm semi famous for it. Since I started keeping track 30, 40 years ago. And one of the ways I do that is I cheat. Oh, you cheat? Yeah. I only sell quality products that are competitively priced, and I spend my time talking to qualified people. Then I have perfected a way to describe and explain whatever the product or service is. That's called scripting. I have an effective script to describe it to you, and I have the courage to ask for the order at the end. But even then, I cheat. I spend my time maneuvering where I've gotten inside the family, the unit, the individual, the company. I'm now a friend. I'm not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get down to the end, we just published, let me show you this. The first time I've shown it on television.
Ah, I love it.
The
Seen here
Closers
first.
Part 5
Aha.
is now out,
Love it.
done with Mark Tassani, a wonderful salesman. We haven't even shipped one yet. This is my hardcover sample.
Nice.
Uh,
Well, I'm
anyway,
going to be on Amazon when we hang up or when we get done, Ben.
okay. I don't know if it's over there or not,
Mm.
but I got mine.
Well, you got
So
connections. You have
yeah,
connections.
the anyway with that, what I was going to say was I've written. That's the 25th book I've written. Most of them on selling and self improvement and so on. Scattered within them, I've never counted. There's got to be 300 or 400 closes. Okay, the close I use, virtually the only one is we've gone through it. I've sales infiltrated you. I've trained you how to treat me. I've only let you call me Mr. Gay once. And then I say, Randy, based on what we've discussed, here's what I suggest we do. Based on what we've
We've.
discussed, here's what I suggest we do. Fill in the blank, buy the big one, the little one, the green one, the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough? Question mark.
Yep.
And that closes almost 86% of the sales. At the worst, it smokes out one last objection or question. When that's answered, we bump up to 86%.
Nice. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. And like you said, it's all in that conditioning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yep.
A funny TO story. When I was first getting started, Holiday Magic Cosmetics, I was working with some people and I wasn't bright enough to be able to close them. I wasn't good enough yet. And I raised my hand. I was the guy at the table with a hand
Yeah,
up.
put the hand up.
Bill Dempsey, my sponsor, wonderful salesman, now passed away, came over and he said, yes. And I did the tee up before he got there. And they stood up, Mr. Dempsey, how are you? And so on. And he winked at me. He knew I'd done the TO properly. And then we all sat down and he started drawing circles and explaining what they should do. And he said something. And I said, yeah, and another thing, Bill, tell them about so and so and so and so. And he looked at me uh, like I was a lab specimen with a slow burn head turn.
Oh,
Then he went back to whatever he was doing, and it probably wasn't 60 seconds later. I said, yeah. And another thing, blah, 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 and I jumped in. I did that 3 or 4 times. And Dempsey, that was his nickname because it was his last name.
mhm,
Dempsey stood up, straightened his French cuffs out. He had a way of elongating any movement. He was a dance
mhm.
instructor first, so he knew how
Okay.
to be dramatic. Uh, Tugged on his cuff and he said, ladies and gentlemen, 2 or 3 couples at the table. He said, we have a system here. When a person is working with prospects and can't close them, they raise their hand because they don't know enough to close the sale. Mr. Gay raised his hand, and that's the reason I came over, because he couldn't close you. Apparently now he believes he can. And so I wish you all the best. Walked away from the
What?
table.
Oh man, that's awesome.
That
That's
was the first,
yeah.
if you bring me over, shut up.
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah,
Don't say a word unless I ask you. And if I ask you, you answer yes or no.
yeah.
Not,
It's
don't need the second word.
exactly. Exactly. That's awesome. Exactly. Great stuff. Well, Ben, always great. So, Tom, a fellow friend of ours, Tom Ginn, is it Ginn or Ginn? I think it's Ginn. But you and I, you've been in Tom's
It,
show not long
it's
ago, I believe.
again, yes,
Ginn, I think
uh-huh.
it's Ginn. A great guy, anyways.
There he
Thank you
is
for
right
there he
there.
is. Thanks for the share. And two of my favorite people. You talking about Wes and Ben? I'm assuming. Uh, but thank you for the share, Tom. Appreciate that. So Ben, it's been 42 minutes or so flies with you, my friend, and uh, always, I was gonna start the intro today as I was riding down the road going to get a haircut just for you, um, but in that, and it looked pretty bad, and I got a sales meeting next week, and you just don't go to sales meetings and not look your best, right? But
Right.
and I was going to talk about this, and then we got kind of delayed with chatting off air. That Wes was like, guys, will you like his hand was up. You guys quit talking so I can go live here. But I was going to mention as my parting words, and then I'll let you have the last shot. But uh, you know, it's been a pleasure to get to know you and to have you as a friend and in my life. You don't maybe know this, and we may have talked about it, but you've been an unknown mentor for years to me. I've read your stuff from way back. And when you first popped up somewhere on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever I first connected with you, I had to look it up because I said this can't be the same Ben Gay the third. It just couldn't be. And when I found out it was pretty
How many
exciting.
Ben Gay the thirds do you think there are?
Well, two others, and both of them, I'm assuming, are gone. So, uh, but but the point is, and I'll say to anybody as they catch us on replay, if you don't follow Ben, you don't know Ben. You need to, man, because I've learned so much about selling over the years from you, and and being able to chat and for us to communicate literally daily, one way or another, via social media or whatever we do. That's been good stuff, my friend. I just wanted to say it publicly that I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate the feeling is mutual. You and Wes, although we've never physically shaken hands, I consider you as good a friend as my next door neighbor.
Wow.
Uh,
Well,
so you have you're a sales infiltrator. Both of you are. You have the ability to get inside and become a buddy. It's not necessary. When Zoom first came on the scene, I thought, oh, that's terrible because you got to be in the room and so on. Well, the room is better,
mm-hmm.
but I can be on Zoom without flying to Atlanta and getting held over in Denver for 6 hours, uh,
Exactly.
and tying up 3 days to do 2 hours work, and so on. So I've gotten very comfortable with meeting wonderful people. Tom Ginn, who was just there a moment ago, is one. We're working together in a uh, MLM company. They don't
Hmm.
consider it MLM, but it is. Uh, he's and we're about to make an announcement on that I swore I would never do. I said that I would not join or work with another MLM direct sales company until hell froze over. And
And it just got pretty cold, is what you're saying.
yeah, I wrote a letter and the headline is hell has frozen over. So we'll be making
Awesome.
that announcement. But Tom's one of those guys. I've never physically met him, nor is it necessary. I've been at this a long time. I've met, spoken to live and met, had the opportunity to shake hands with 2.5 million people
Wow.
in 5,000 paid appearances, not counting the free ones. So I know how to make friends. And I have an innate ability to spot the good guys and the bad guys.
Mm.
You and Wes and Tom are good guys.
Well,
And I'm honored to know you and to meet you, and through technology to spread the word. I can probably speak to more people in a week now than I spoke to in the previous 55 years.
it is amazing, and
Yeah.
that this past couple of years, not that we want it to come the way it came with the pandemic, the lockdown, the
Mhm.
whatever we want to call it all, but I I've become so much better in the last 2 years at doing what I
Mhm.
do because when if something happens again, I can just go back to Zooms and this kind of stuff 24/7 for a while if I have to. But
Mhm.
right now, it's a great augmentation to being on the road and seeing people. And like you said, I figured that out sitting at home in Naples, and I'm going, what do I do? Because I travel. I'm a road warrior. That's what I've always
Yeah.
done.
When I
I
wake
mean,
up in the morning, I'm supposed to put on my socks and
yeah.
go.
And instead, I'm sitting here with a cup of coffee, going, I got no place to be. I mean, I have places to be, but I can't go there. But then I started realizing that I talk by before lunch more people like you just I've talked to more people before lunch than I have. This is literally just on a Zoom or a phone call
Mhm.
than I will in 3 weeks of traveling. And then when you
Absolutely.
start doing these sort of things and guesting on people's shows, social media, you're literally in front of more people in a day than you would be in a year, right? It's
Yep.
it's a force multiplier. It's really been a godsend, really.
And good favor. My speaking fee, if I come to your facility, is $12,500 plus two first class airfares in case Gigi can or wants to come.
Hmm.
One if she doesn't. A hotel room the night before and the night after. I don't. I want to make sure I'm there, and I don't want to be looking at my watch trying to make
Right.
a plane when I'm still speaking. So depends on where you are, but you can total that up, and it's
Hmm.
15, $16,000 minimum.
Right.
Norway, add 10 to the airfare, times two is 20. you know,
Yep.
and but or you can have me on for an hour with a big screen on your stage for $1,000. 2,500 if you want to go 2 hours, questions and answers and so on, and get real personal. Uh, so I say to people, what's best for you? Thinking they'll all say live. Well, it's amazing when you're looking at 15,000 or 1,000, or 2,500 max.
Hmm.
It's amazing how many people can get along just fine without seeing you in person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's say, I say 3 days. If I'm speaking to your organization on Tuesday, Monday is gone.
Right.
Tuesday is gone, and most of Wednesday's gone, and I'm dead tired, so it's gone. So that's 3 days.
Hmm.
So people say, "Are you willing to give up all that money?" And I said, "No, I'm willing to give up all that money in exchange for 3 days that I have to myself, where
Right.
I can make additional money, different money, and so on."
Exactly. Exactly. Great
So
point. Great point. Well, Ben, as always, thank you. I appreciate it. Show number 3. Love it. I will. There'll be more as long as you're willing. Don't you worry.
I'm always willing. As I
I know
told
you
you,
are.
first time we talked or second time we talked, not only am I ready for scheduled things like this,
Right.
if anybody ever flakes out on you, give me a call as quick as you
You
can. I'll
you can.
if my hair's messed up, I'll put on a Ben Gay baseball hat and
Perfect.
we'll do it.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I get to use I get to use working at home or get used to working at home sometimes when I'm not traveling, which I'm doing quite a bit more of again now. But I know that if when I've got whether it's my show or if I'm going to guest on somebody's show, always I go in days before and I hang a polo or some kind of a shirt that I want to wear on air, and I hang it over the back of my chair because there's been a couple times where I've had to say to Wes, "Oh, we're going live in 1 minute." I'm going crap because I still got on some workout shirt or something, right? Because so you run in, you fix your hair and put a little gel in it or something, and throw the shirt on, and literally, the countdown starting, right? And it's so I've learned to know my own weakness, and that's one of them is I get so busy with stuff because I just love what I do, right? That I'm going to be talking to customers if I can, literally until Ben pops up on the screen. So it's like I better have that shirt there, so I go, oh crap, I got this Under Armour shirt on that I just was working out in. I better switch that quick and jump in the bathroom right next to me.
Somebody I was on their show and it was a second or third time. They said, "Do you always wear that shirt?" And I said, "Well, not that shirt. I've got 20 of them, but do I always wear a shirt that looks like this?" Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you can splice shows together,
sure,
and
sure,
part one
sure.
and two can become part three and so on.
Yeah,
Well, Randy, it is an honor to work with you and Wes.
yeah.
I really believe that and uh, look forward to many, many more over the years.
You got it, my friend. Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. And cheers, and have a great weekend. If you want to hang on for a second, we'll chat for just a
Sure,
minute off air if you can.
sure.
And great, Ben. Thank you, my friend. Cheers. There you go, folks. The one, the only, the legendary Ben Gay the third. And like I said earlier, and I mean that, if you are not following Ben, you got to do it, man. You just got to do it. First class dude. And Wes and I've talked about this many a times, and how blessed we are to have Ben in our life, and I learn something new every day. So that is it for today. Next week we're going to go to a young buck, Mason Burchett. Mason was on I don't know, probably 7, 8, 9 months ago. Um, with with a partner in a business he used to be with, but he's going to come back on. He's a motivator. He's a young gun, and he's writing this series of books. He had his first one that I just read, "How to Make Sure You Never Get Promoted," and he does it from I'm going to get this word wrong, but analytical. Analytical. Is that the word I want, Wes? Put that word up there for me. Anyway, what he does is he tells you. Wes is laughing. I can see him. He says, "I don't know what it is either. It's how bad I butchered it." But basically, what it is he tells you what to do to not get promoted from a almost a sarcastic standpoint, right? So you take what he's telling you and do just the opposite. And it's short, it's quick, and it's well written. And so we're gonna have him on and talk about it. And I noticed today on social media, I just haven't had a chance to respond, but he's got another one that he's just coming out with. So we're gonna talk to Mason next week, same time, same place. So keep doing what you do, and remember, love what you do, and just keep doing it every day. Do what you love what you do, and make today your best day ever. Until tomorrow. Who wrote that? Looks like a doctor. Anyways, thank you, my friends. Cheers.